now that Twitter is allowing nothing but misinformation to be spread all over it without any consequences whatsoever, a new documentary went viral today called Died Suddenly. This is all over Twitter. It's been trending on Twitter for like 2 days now, and I watched the whole thing today. So I'm going to debunk this, and it's very easy to debunk, folks. Unsurprisingly, this was put out by shameless fucking liars and grifters who 100% know they're lying. I'm going to prove 100% they know they're lying, and they're doing it on purpose because all they give a shit about is making money and fooling the idiots that believe this stuff. And it's sad because I know my mom probably watched this today, and she's probably like, see, I was right. The vaccine is killing all kinds of people. I was right not to get vaccinated. We were right that it's evil. This justifies their paranoia and their stupidity. Knowing that none of the people that watch this are actually going to research a word in it. They're just going to take it as gospel, swallow it hook, line, and sinker, which is dangerous as fuck because it is incredibly misleading. So before I get to the documentary, let's take a look at what the trailer did. They had this trailer out, and even the trailer lied. In the trailer for the Anti-Vax documentary, Died Suddenly, a video of a Florida Gators basketball star, Keontae Johnson, collapsed on the court is shown. Johnson collapsed at a game on December 12, 2020, before vaccines were even available, and he didn't die. And if you watch this documentary, they do this continuously. There's probably 100 examples where they play videos of people collapsing or having strokes and falling out. Absolutely nothing to do with the vaccine, just trying to scare people. Another shot is a woman from Argentina passing out and falling into a moving train. She fainted due to low blood pressure from not eating all day, and she survived without any major injuries. She didn't die suddenly. Another shot shows a royal guard fainting, which is actually a common occurrence because they have to stand still for large periods of time. And of course, he was fine and didn't die suddenly. So just all kinds of lies in the documentary, showing quick clips without any context to make you think these are people just dying on camera from COVID. So let's play a little bit of it. Let's start it. I'm going to go through this documentary as fast as I possibly can. So the beginning opens up with a naked fucking lie.
U.S. life insurance companies have reported an overwhelming and unexplainable increase in all-cause deaths among 18 to 49-year-olds. Along with that, there's also been an increase in certain medical diagnoses, such as miscarriages and Bell's palsy.
So that's what it opens up with, folks. This is the crux pretty much of the entire documentary. According to insurance companies, we've had a large increase in deaths between people 18 to 49 years old that are unexplained. And the insurance companies, the life insurance companies are coming out and saying this. So this is obviously really scary. There's some major problem here. So all you have to do is Google this. And the insurance companies explain exactly why they believe this is happening. Never once mentioned in this documentary. No doubt they know that insurance companies explain this already, because if you Google it, it's the first thing that comes up. I'll show you. So it's true. There have been an increase of payouts for life insurance for 18 to 49-year-olds. Rise in non-COVID-19 death hits life insurance. Now, this is the Wall Street Journal. This is not a left-wing rag. This is a right-wing newspaper. This is what they had to say about it. U.S. life insurers, as expected, made a large number of COVID-19 death benefits payments last year. More surprisingly, many saw a jump in other death claims too. Industry executives and actuaries believe many of these other fatalities are tied to delays in medical care as a result of lockdowns in 2020. And then, later, people's fears of seeking out treatment and trouble lining up appointments, and also a misdiagnosis of people that actually died of COVID weren't diagnosed for that. Some insurers see continued high levels of these deaths for some times, even if COVID-19 deaths decline this year. The losses we are seeing continue to be elevated over 2019 levels due to, at least in part, we believe, to the pandemic and the existence of either delayed or unavailable health care. Global Life Finance Chief Frank Savada told analysts and investors earlier this month, and this wasn't the only newspaper to cover this, was covered all over the place. PolitiFact. COVID-19 vaccines caused a 40% increase in deaths identified by life insurance companies. No, COVID-19 vaccines aren't responsible for an increase in deaths. Well, one American CEO, Scott Davidson, said life insurance industry data indicated death rates among working-age people were up 40%. Social media users have suggested COVID-19 vaccines rather than the illness itself are responsible for the increases of death. Research indicates that COVID-19 is likely responsible for the increase. There is no evidence to suggest the vaccines are to blame. They cover this repeatedly. It's really easy to understand, too. I mean, like I said, a lot of people were denied medical service because the hospitals were flooded. A lot of preventative health care wasn't done. A lot of people were afraid to go to the doctor because of COVID-19. A lot of these people were misdiagnosed and actually had COVID, mild forms of COVID, and died from that. And also, the pandemic was incredibly stressful, and people were isolated, which caused more suicides and also caused major health problems. I mean, stress is one of the worst fucking things for your health. So it's easy to understand. All this has been debunked and explained away. But this documentary doesn't mention any of that. They just say, hey, deaths are up. It has to be because these people died of the vaccine. Not once explaining in any way what the insurance companies said they thought was happening. So the first part of this documentary is just a bunch of scary clips, all not related really to anything to do with COVID.
Reaching plague proportion.
No intelligent, patriotic American family ought to have more than 2 children, preferably 1.
Maybe anybody who's thinking of having a 3rd child ought to go hungry a week.
So should we have policies that penalize people for having extra kids in the developed world?
So I do think that we should at least consider it.
And this is where people start.
So basically they're pointing out all these people who are talking about if overpopulation is going to be a problem. So they're going to make the case that these elites spread COVID on purpose in order to get us to be vaccinated so the vaccinations can kill us and decrease global population. And one of the clips they use to prove this is a clip from Bill Gates.
Getting nervous.
Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Well, common sense would tell you if you have a man standing in front of you saying he's going to reduce the world's population by 10 or 15% using vaccines, what does that mean to you? It means somebody's going to die because you put a vaccine in them. It doesn't mean you're going to save people. That's pretty much common sense in my brain. But yet I saw him.
That's just common sense, folks. It's obvious. Bill Gates is talking about murdering people with the vaccine. However, Bill Gates put out a video explaining exactly what he meant. And the people that made this documentary saw the video because they used a clip from the video I'm about to show you out of context again to make it look like Bill Gates was saying something scary.
It's an ideology, an eschatology.
Here we can see a chart that looks at the total world population over the last several hundred years. And at first glance, this is a bit scary.
And it spawned a new genre of fear that lasted for generations.
Here's what he actually said, folks.
In this year's annual letter, Melinda and I take the toughest questions we get asked and give our answers. One that's come up for a long time is, as we make the world healthier, is the population going to get so big that feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible? Here we can see a chart that looks at the total world population over the last several hundred years. And at first glance, this is a bit scary. We go from less than 1 billion in 1800, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.4 billion where we are today is happening even faster. So Melinda and I wondered whether providing new medicines and keeping children alive, would that create more of a population problem? What we found out is that as health improves, families choose to have less children. And this effect is very, very dramatic. We find that in every country of the world, this is repeated. The population growth goes down as we improve health. So we've taken that chart that shows the global population growth, and we've actually extended it out all the way to 2100. And we can see that instead of continuing, it actually flattens out. Another way to see that is through this rate of population growth. And you can see that in the 60s, that reached a pretty high number, over 2% per year, and it's now come way, way down. Now, 11 billion people, still a lot, but the good news is that the faster we improve health, the faster family size goes down, and so we can feel great about saving those lives.
So 100% live from the documentary. They knew, like I said, because they used other clips in the video I just showed you out of context to make Bill Gates look scary without telling their audience exactly what he was talking about, showing the whole thing to educate them on it. So they're purposely leaving out information to lie their audience. They know what they're doing. So then the documentary, quote unquote, goes on to show a bunch of embalmers who claim they're pulling lots of fibrous clots out of their patients. And without any evidence, because they don't know which one of these people have been vaccinated or not, are claiming clearly these are vaccinated people who have all these blood clots in them, which is stupid because all these people who've been vaccinated, billions now, go to the doctor continuously to be checked on, and the doctors aren't pulling these big fibrous things out of their body. So obviously this has been incredibly debunked. One of the main guys are using, that guy I just showed you, Mike Adams, InfoWars frequent guest. But what the experts say, I'll just shorten it for you. First off, they say that blood clots are very common in people who get COVID-19. So a lot of those people probably got COVID, and that's why they had blood clots. Secondly, they said that the blood clots they showed are not different than regular blood clots they find in patients. They kept calling them fibrous looking clots, like they were some kind of different thing. One expert said it's pretty clear that what's going on is when you leave bodies in a refrigerator for a long period of time, the blood clots up. So that's all that's causing it right there. You guys are just full of shit, right? Lots of articles have been debunking this. They didn't give any of this information in the documentary, of course, because it's all one-sided. Monica Torres, the NXT generation mortuary support in the U.S. state of Arizona, offered another explanation. The blood clots are from refrigeration. It happens to many bodies. She said in a September 19 email, it's just that there were so many bodies to process. Many of them sat in refrigeration for long durations, so they got blood clots. It's not a big deal. And these people are trying to make it a thing. Yep, they're trying to find conspiracies where none exist. So that was their next big proof. Then they really only gave one more piece of evidence in this long documentary that the vaccine was killing folks. And it comes from, this guy is part of that doctors group I was telling you about, the American Frontline Doctors. Remember that group I covered last week of the fake doctors who were spreading COVID misinformation? Now they're all suing each other because the woman that led it stole all the money and bought herself a $3.1 million mansion, and she lives there with her boy toy who was an underwear model. Remember that? Well, yeah, this guy is a member of that organization, and he stepped to speak to Congress about it, and he spread these lies.
I have declarations from all three. This state is under penalty. This is under penalty of perjury. We intend to submit this to the courts. We have substantial data showing that we saw, for example, miscarriages increased by 300% over the 5-year average, almost. We saw almost 300% increase in cancer over the 5-year average. We saw, this one's amazing, neurological. So neurological issues which would affect our pilots, over 1,000% increase. 1,000.
10 times. That's 10 times the rate, and obviously that
83,000, 82,000 per year to 863,000 in 1 year. Our soldiers are being experimented on, injured, and sometimes possibly killed.
Senator Johnson looked in the camera and said,
the Department of Defense, the Biden administration is on notice. They must preserve these records, and this must be investigated.
So basically, they're making the claim that there's this DMED system, which is a military system where they document all the medical cases that the soldiers bring to them, and they put it on this website. And according to this website, increases in cancer and miscarriages and neurological problems, they went up 300, 400, 500% in 1 year, which proves the only answer must be it's the vaccination causing this. Unfortunately, if you research it, what happened is the databases were off. For some reason, between the years of like 2016 to 2021, they only listed a very small number of medical cases that were actually happening in the military. The database wasn't listing them all. Most of them weren't listed in the database. But then in 2021, they actually started listing all of the cases. They updated it where the information was actually correct. So it looked like there was a giant increase. Numbers were based on faulty data, military spokesman says. An error in the Defense Medical Epidemiology database gave the false impression that there was a huge spike in miscarriages, cancer, and other medical medical issues among military members in 2021. The 2016 to 2020 numbers used to determine a 5-year average were underreported, officials said. The database has been taken down to identify and correct the problem. So it was an error in the database, basically. They figured it out and they fixed it. The documentary did not mention anything about the fact that the military found the errors in the database and that was the problem all along. They completely left that information out to their viewers on purpose in order to misinform them. So that was the only claims basically this documentary made. And then the rest of the documentary is just them making those claims over and over and over again without providing the context or the information that would debunk their own documentary. So they know they're lying on purpose, and they don't give a shit because they know Twitter no longer has any rules. Misinformation is allowed now, and they can use the platform to sow this disinformation all over the place, which is incredibly dangerous, but what the fuck do they care? And undoubtedly, all the anti-vaxxers now are going to be like, see, we were right. We knew all along that if you took the vaccine, you would die from it. But no, it's all bullshit. It has been debunked to hell and back. You are liars. And I guess grifter's going to grift. What you going to do? Debunked!
True.